Thanks and good afternoon, everyone. I'm not sure if you've looked at the schedules, but I believe that I'm the only thing holding you from lunch. So I promise that this will be held to the appropriate time, and I want to make sure to give time for questions at the end, because measurement and impact isn't about one silver bullet. It's about, a conversation and figuring out what's right for each organization and what's right for the Giving Tuesday movement. So I want to make sure that's a conversation with you all today and maybe throughout the day. As Erin said, I'm Sarah Koch with the Case Foundation. The Case Foundation was one of the founding partners of Giving Tuesday, as I'm sure many of you in this room also are. And honestly, we see Giving Tuesday as kind of the logical next step for the prizes and challenges movement that the Case Foundation has been involved in for years. We started out back in 2007 with the Make It Your Own Awards, really using crowdsourcing to get new ideas and new energy among community members who wanted to do something good for their communities. We did America's Giving Challenge, talking about democratizing philanthropy and getting more people comfortable with giving online. We've come very far from that. People seem to be incredibly comfortable giving online. So the next question was, how do you take that? How do you take movements like Pepsi Refresh and Chase Community Giving and the Give to the Max days and other giving days like Give Minnesota and turn that into something that's more than just a one-time campaign or a local campaign? And I think that the folks here with Giving Tuesday have really accomplished that. And they've really taken this movement and this energy and the enthusiasm for people to get involved in their communities, to be giving online, and to be giving back, and really taken that and built it into an incredible thing. So first, congratulations to all of you and for all of the partners in the room. But when we're talking about movement building and about this idea of giving back and giving online and how do we all come together around Giving Tuesday, I think there are really two important things to talk about related to impact and measurement. And that's sharing what we've done. So sharing those stories, a lot of the conversations that we've had today, and making sure that we're telling each other what we've done, what worked, what didn't, but sharing those stories, sharing those campaigns, but then also asking, what can we do better? Because it's not just taking what you've done so far and repeating that ad nauseum. It's about looking at that, looking at what worked, looking at what didn't work, potentially looking at what failed, and then figuring out how do we build that into something even better the next year. So I'm going to walk you through a little bit of what we've done at the Case Foundation, and then I really want to talk about how we have that conversation about what we can do better, and then how Giving Tuesday as a movement can bring that conversation into place and talk about what the third Giving Tuesday can do better than the last 2 years as well. We started out the first year of Giving Tuesday, I think like a lot of other people, saying, well, we want to do something. We're not really sure what. We're not really sure how this is going to go. We think it's going to go well, but we didn't know the magnitude of success that it was going to have. So we partnered with CrowdRise, Network for Good, and 6degrees.org, and we said, all right, we'll do a matching grant. We're a foundation. That's something that we like to do, that we're comfortable doing, that we know that nonprofits respond really well to. It's something that will be utilized. There's no way that a matching grant can not be successful, right? No matter what, nonprofits are getting money. They're mobilizing donors. They're getting new donors in the door. So we said, okay, we'll take $30,000. We'll put up a matching grant. And we are taking the spirit of Giving Tuesday very literally and saying it will be the 24 hours of Giving Tuesday. We will launch at midnight Eastern time. We'll end at midnight. That next midnight or 11:59 or whatever you need to say legally, and we'll put up that $30,000 and we'll see how long that it takes for the $30,000 to be matched by nonprofits. So we underestimated ourselves a little bit on this one, and part of it was that we didn't know the power of the movement, and part of it was that we just wanted to play around and see what happened. The $30,000 was gone by around 8 a.m. Eastern time, which didn't really make the West Coast people feel really great about this since they hadn't woken up yet. So we decided to put another $30,000 into the pot, and we had an overall $60,000 matching grant, which I think made it less than 2 more hours into the day. By 10 a.m. it was completely over. $60,000 matched. Nothing else was really happening. West Coast people had maybe gotten a couple of minutes worth of the very end of that. But, it was 10 a.m. on Giving Tuesday. Everything was really ramping up, and we realized we were done. And so that was kind of a learning moment for us of, even though we had absolutely blown away our original goals of making sure to maximize on this momentum and to give nonprofits incentive for them to mobilize their donors, we didn't mobilize that many nonprofits for $60,000. And, we only really had about 4 hours worth of excitement that we got to participate in. And so a huge success for us, but we knew that question of what can we do better, that we really wanted to improve in year 2. So we actually started thinking about what went well in year 1, but what did we want to really hone in on a little bit more. And the thing that bothered us the most was ending at 10 a.m. So we were thinking, how can we make sure that it's not just a matching grant? Because matching grants can go so fast, and unless we're going to put up, unlimited amounts of funds, then it's hard to say, okay, we definitely will have a campaign that goes throughout the day. So we had to balance this idea of doing better, but also keeping it simple and doing something that our community could understand, but also making it enough that there were incentives for all sorts of groups who were coming to the table, and it wasn't just a match that would end. So what we did is we offered up multiple prizes. And I won't get too in-depth in this, but we actually made it a little bit more complicated than we originally anticipated, but it still went really well. So for people who always come up against that, do we do simple or do we do complicated? This is a tough question, but we've tried both and both worked well, so there's that. We offered up a $60,000 matching grant again, and then for the longevity factor, we offered up a $10,000 overall fundraiser grant as well. So whoever fundraised the most, we started at 11 a.m. instead of midnight to lend ourselves a little bit more to all time zones, and went through midnight. So, we had the match, which was starting a little bit later to be a little bit more equitable to all groups. We had the overall fundraiser, $10,000. And then we also did this third prize, which you kind of threw in there at the end, just saying, I don't know, let's do something else interesting. Let's try to get a little bit more momentum around this. We called it the Race to 20 Donors. The first 5 nonprofits that were able to get 20 different donors to donate on our CrowdRise page each got $1,000. So a very small award, but you would be surprised how many nonprofits from the very beginning were saying, we just want all of our people to donate now. We just need 20 people. That was done in 25 minutes. We had 5 nonprofits that had all gotten 20 different donors, and probably another 5 that were at 18 or 19 people. So as I'm counting all of these, it's like, oh, they're so close. And the match was done 5 minutes later. So the first year when our match ended, we only had $5,000 that was donated between the end of the match and the end of the day. And we knew that we needed to change that. That's why we had the overall fundraiser award. We had $50,000 donated between the end of the matching grant and the end of the day. So that was a big success for us, to continue fundraising, to continue that momentum throughout the day. And that was what we had wanted. That was a big part of the impact that we wanted to have, was to make sure to keep that going and to have incentives for people throughout the day. So that was part of how we restructured our second year to make sure it was more in line with the impact that we wanted to have, that we were actually paying attention to some of these metrics and ways that we wanted to make sure that we were judging our community. But then the other really important impact measure for us was not just having it be a one-day thing. We actually crafted our entire holiday campaign, which we called the 5 Giving Tuesdays. Thanks again, guys, for not caring that we just, jumped on that bandwagon. And we actually made it about all of the different ways that you can give back during the holidays. So we made it about giving donations, but also giving time and volunteering, giving gifts that give back, giving the gift of warmth through, one coat campaigns, and also giving a resolution that does good. Whether it is to use an app like Charity Miles that, helps you to give back the more that you walk or run, or whether it's, any other kind of resolution to volunteer more, to do good things in the new year. So we wanted to make sure that that was in line with all of the ways that we saw that people could give back. It was an important part of taking that campaign and making it not just about giving, making it about other things that we also cared about. So that was how we really made a purposeful moment to say, we want this entire campaign to line up with what matters to us as a foundation and what matters to the impact that we're trying to accomplish. And by crafting that campaign, we were able to make sure we were measuring all of the things that we wanted, that we knew how many people had taken the pledge, how many people had gone off of that page to actually take action by tracking conversion through links and different things like that. So we knew what good that we did through that campaign and felt, really great about the impact that we could have and making sure that we aligned it with our goals. So the one other element, though, is thinking about There are the individual campaigns that might have really great impact and know how to measure well. There might be the campaigns that still need to align their impact and their measurement with what they want to do and how to improve that as individual organizations, which I think is an incredibly important conversation to have. But the other important conversation for us to have, whether it's in this room, whether it's later on, whether it's throughout the year, is what is the measurement and impact of the Giving Tuesday movement? And anyone who's in movement building knows it's really hard to measure a movement. When do you say that a movement is successful? And especially a movement that is based so much on creativity. There are multiple people who have said that today, and I believe so wholeheartedly in the idea of Giving Tuesday being whatever you want it to be, whatever is right for your community, and not saying you have to do it just like this in this little box, and this is exactly how you will do it, and so this is exactly how we will measure it. By allowing for the creativity of any organization to approach it however they want, to make it about donations, to make it about volunteering, to make it about engaging new people, to make it about engaging current donors. It's really hard to say, then these are the exact metrics that we're going to follow. But I think that there's a way that we can get there. And I don't have that answer for you today, but it is, continuing on this theme of challenges put forth today, it's a challenge that I want to make, and a challenge that the Case Foundation really wants to participate in this year is figuring out what are the right metrics and measurements for Giving Tuesday. If we're going to say, and I think we all believe it in our guts, that Giving Tuesday is making a huge difference, both in philanthropy and also in just general giving back and engaging communities, then how are we actually going to back that up? And I think that the challenges that have been made on this front are completely valid. After 2 years, it was still about that movement building. It was still about getting people engaged. And now we can say, okay, we know people are engaged. We know people want to do this. Now, how do we measure it? How do we take what we feel in our gut and we make sure that we're putting that out there and saying, yes, this is how we know that we're being as successful as we know that we feel. And so what I would like to propose, and what I hope that we can follow up with throughout the year, is figuring out ways that all of the partners who are participating can be taking track of certain things that they're doing and reporting that back. And ideas for how each of your organizations could take what you've already done, maybe measure it a little bit, and then share that with the Giving Tuesday movement to see how we're all doing that together. And yes, there'll be a variety of different things that everyone's doing, so there'll be a variety of different reports that need to come out. But the more that we're able to share, and the more that we're able to say, this is what we did, we measured it internally for us, and we want to put that out into the world, more we can aggregate that information and really put it out there in a way that isn't just a one-off of this organization and that organization, but it can really speak to the value of the entire movement. So those are some of my thoughts and the experiences of the Case Foundation regarding impact and measurement. I have absolutely no idea how we're doing on time, but I'm hoping that we can take a few questions or even thoughts on what's worked for you regarding measurement, but also what you would hope comes out of the movement in terms of measuring the impact of Giving Tuesday overall.
Sarah, we've got time for 2 questions.
Perfect. I know it's measurement. Nobody wants to jump up and say, yay, I know how to measure things. Yeah, I think we've got one here. We'll wait for a microphone really quickly.
Hi. The difference between measuring outputs versus outcomes is really substantial. In the short run, outputs are really easy, but outcomes are much more long-term. So I guess that's a challenge in a lot of philanthropic impact data. So I guess the idea of short-term impact, to me, is still about measuring outputs. So I guess I'd love for you to comment on that, or how your foundation looks at that.
Absolutely. So I think that, outputs and outcomes is one of the things that, the entire nonprofit sector is constantly, not necessarily struggling with, but sometimes struggling with, but definitely focused on. And, I think that it's the outcome area that I think Giving Tuesday, that's the gut feeling that we have, right? We have some of the outputs. We have the number of donors who have come. We have some of the information on how much was donated, things like that. But how is this changing behavior overall? And outcomes are all about behavior changes, right? Are those people who were a one-time donor becoming long-term donors? Have they changed their behavior to now become supporters of a new nonprofit because of Giving Tuesday? Were people who were, smaller level donors now being continual larger scale donors or larger advocates for the organization. So, I think that there are those things, and those are the items that are going to take a longer amount of time, right? You can't have long-term outcomes after 2 years. So I think that that's where we can cut ourselves a little bit of slack in terms of knowing that long-term outcomes take a long-term campaign to get to. But I think looking at aggregating all of the outputs, as many as we can have from as many partners who are out there, as well as thinking of short-term outcomes that we can start measuring now, and then kind of set ourselves up to make sure that when we get to the point where we can look at long-term outcomes, that we've actually been tracking them and measuring them along the way. Because even if we get 5 years down the road, but we haven't been collecting any of that data, you can't analyze it if you don't have it. So I think setting us up for success right now is incredibly important.